In a move that's all but certain to hurt his own party today at the polls, Trump just took to Truth Social and wrote, SNAP benefits, which increased by billions and billions of dollars, manyfold, during crooked Joe Biden's disastrous term in office, due to the fact that they were haphazardly handed to anyone for the asking, as opposed to just those in need, which is the purpose of SNAP, will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up government, which they can easily do and not before. Which is to say, Donald Trump is officially weaponizing food assistance for 42 million Americans, including 16 million children, until Democrats cave on healthcare. He is holding hungry people hostage to force Democrats to reopen the government without extending ACA subsidies. He's pitting the sick against the hungry. But hey, populism or something. I should note, too, that Trump's tweet comes just hours after Mike Johnson said this.
People everywhere can see clearly who's fighting and voting here every day and delivering for them. And I'll say this clearly to every hardworking American in any place who's missed a paycheck, anyone who has been made to suffer because the services, the health services you rely upon, or the food and nutrition supplement for your family, anyone who is hurting, you have a home in the Republican Party. You have people here who are elected by their constituents to come and do their job, and they do it. They're voting to support you, to make these programs available, to ensure that the people in need have them. And the Democrats, by stark contrast, are doing the exact opposite.
You have a home in the Republican Party where our leader is withholding your food assistance as political leverage to be able to take away your health care. How is that for messaging on Election Day? And what's craziest is that Trump is truly taking 100% of the responsibility here, because just days ago, 2 separate federal judges ordered his administration to release the contingency funds that pay for SNAP. According to the New York Times, in one of the cases, Judge John McConnell of the U.S. District Court for the District of Rhode Island ordered on Friday that the Trump administration must distribute the contingency money timely or as soon as possible for the November 1st payments to be made. His order came shortly after another federal judge in Massachusetts handed an early victory to about 24 states, which similarly had sued to force the release of food stamp funding. In that case, Judge Indira Talwani of the U.S. District Court for the District of Massachusetts found that the decision to halt SNAP benefits was unlawful. She required the administration to explain by Monday how it would fund aid in November. Quote, Congress has put money in an emergency fund. It's hard for me to understand how this isn't an emergency when there's no money and a lot of people are needing their SNAP benefits. In fact, the Trump administration just told a federal judge yesterday, Monday, that it would use contingency funds to pay 50% of normal SNAP benefits for November. So when Trump posts today that benefits, quote, will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up the government, he is contradicting his own administration's court filing from literally 24 hours earlier. And so now you can see the truth about SNAP and how Republicans are weaponizing hunger. They were calling the lawsuit to release SNAP funds frivolous because they didn't want it to succeed. They wanted people to go hungry because it was a bargaining chip for them. They tried to undermine a case that ultimately succeeded in ensuring that 42 million Americans got food. And this is the What Would Jesus Do party? We've got pious Mike Johnson heading the charge here. In fact, I asked Governor Gavin Newsom about that exact point. Here's what he had to say.
We were really proud in California to be one of the leads on that lawsuit, and very proud of this judge to state the obvious, who looked at the actual language that said the USDA shall appropriate contingency funds, and that includes, by the way, considerations for exactly what occurred, a government shutdown. That literally on September 30th, the USDA put out a press release saying these funds are available for precisely that use in case there is a government shutdown, only to see that disappear on their website. And now they're trying to erase any consciousness or memory or any sense of decency on behalf of the American people. Look, you'd expect that of Donald Trump. Let's push that aside. But you started that question
with Mike Johnson. Right, the most pious man in Washington, D.C.
Like that word, pious. It's a good way to describe him. Who's competing for bullshit, bloviation, and lies with Donald Trump. It's extraordinary what comes out of his mouth. Increasingly, it is beyond the pale. This is the indecency of a man of faith, of someone that literally, he read the same Bible I did. You look at Isaiah, you look at Luke, you look at Matthew, you look at Proverbs, Old Testament, New Testament. One of the central themes in the Bible, essential themes. It's not a suggestion, it's about the alignment to the Almighty, to God. It's a question of hunger and food. No decency, sir. Disproportionate number of people that will be impacted in his home district, let alone his home state. And so look, we can state the obvious, the state of mind of Donald Trump, the derangement that he's going to use hunger, starvation, to put families, children, during the holidays, the absurdity of that as he's celebrating as you suggest, no longer it's likely to be $350 million monstrosity of 90,000 square foot ballroom where he's demanding $230 million from the American people for some tithing because of his feeling aggrieved about legal affairs in the past, where he's sitting there at Mar-a-Lago around the roaring 20s as we are paying the highest taxes since the 1930s in terms of these tariff taxes. And we just paid more, as I said, for Halloween candy, and we'll pay record prices for toys in a matter of weeks for Christmas.
So while Mike Johnson and the GOP hide behind Jesus, maybe it's worth asking what Jesus would do in this situation. If your answer is that he would support Republicans in withholding food as a bargaining chip to be able to take away healthcare, maybe it's time to reread the Bible. But here's what really gets me about Trump's post. He claims that SNAP benefits were, quote, haphazardly handed to anyone for the asking under Biden, as opposed to just those in need. This is a complete and utter farce. SNAP has strict eligibility requirements. Households generally have to have gross incomes at or below 130% of the federal poverty line. That's $2,495 a month for a family of 3. Does Trump think that people are getting rich off of food stamps? According to USDA data from May of 2025, SNAP provides households with just over $350 a month on average. That's $187 per person for a household of 2. For most people watching this, do you think you can survive on $187 per person in a month? I couldn't. We're talking about people who are struggling to put food on the table, while Trump is out here pretending like Biden was just handing out benefits to millionaires at country clubs. The reality is that Donald Trump is trying to rewrite history to make it sound like Democrats were irresponsible with SNAP funding, when in reality, SNAP enrollment increased during the pandemic because, surprise, millions of Americans lost their jobs and needed food assistance to survive. That's not haphazard. That is the program working exactly as it's intended. And now that Republicans have shut down the government, they're trying to use the same program as leverage to gut healthcare. Truly depraved behavior. So I hope that everybody watching can see the game that Republicans are playing. I hope you can all see the ease with which these people will pit hungry Americans against sick Americans in further of their political agenda. And I hope that no matter what your political affiliation is, that you recognize who is trying to help you and who's exploiting your pain to consolidate more power for themselves. Because when Trump says that SNAP benefits will only be given to Democrats to open up the government, what he's really saying is, I am willing to let 42 million Americans starve unless I get my way. And that tells you everything you need to know about who Donald Trump really is. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.